Good morning. Good morning. No, I was shaking my head. I didn't sneeze. Whoa. Good morning. How are you guys doing this morning? I woke up and hello. Hello Bunzo. Hello Shady. Hello Bandobaga. Hello Newt Newt. Hello Sorcerer. And hello Spacer. Good morning. Could be better, but could be worse. I mean, that's fair, that's fair. I think today is one of those mornings. Or nights. I think today is one of those mornings or nights where it's good to start or end your day with something chilled out. So, I got some books delivered to me yesterday. Real Bell Hours. Hello, Mel. Yes, I got some books delivered to me yesterday. They're not Welsh fairy tales, Mel, I'll have you know. These are Irish fairy tales. Now, however, it is going to be a children's book, so please don't expect flowery language or anything. I think the nicest thing in the world. Okay, bye Mal. I'm gonna ban you for that. I'm joking, I won't do that. I promise. But, yes, these are children's fairy tales, so I apologize in advance for a lack of, extremely... Hello, Syrup. And hello, Lexi. But yes, I apologize in advance for the lack of flowery language involved. Also, please do tell me if the volume is too loud or too quiet, okay? Because I want to make sure that everyone has a good time. Volume is perfect. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Newt. Okay, so it is now 9:26 for me. In 4 minutes, we will start. So at past. Are Irish fairy tales too edgy for you? No, they're not at all. Irish fairy tales are good. Now, so, in the meantime, what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you guys what your favorite colors are, and then I'm going to rate them. Okay? So please let me judge what your favorite colors are. Blue, pig, white, a nice deep navy blue. Mao, I feel like blue is a bit of an unoriginal color. Maybe you should try harder next time. Pig isn't a color. Sheedy, white is racist. And Newt, that's a nice color. Navy is a nice color. I did say I was going to judge. So, Chartreuse. Chartreuse? Oh my god. How do you even pronounce that? Let me have a look. I kind of think I know what color this is. Ah, that is a nice color. It's like the color of moss. That's quite nice. Cobalt blue, like blue glass blue. That's nice as well. My favorite color is orange. My favorite color is bright orange. That is my favorite color. That was unexpected. It was unexpected. I didn't realize. Did you think it would be purple? Because I'm very purpley. Orange is my favorite color. It reminds me of the sunset. I think the sunset is nice, especially when you experience it with friends. It's a very cheery color, and I like to think of myself as someone who can be quite bubbly and optimistic. So, I think for me it's a good color. That's my reasoning. That's my reasoning on why I like it. Sunsets are beautiful, no matter how many suns there are. Very true, Spacer, very true. Though I have only experienced my local in my solar system. I like desaturated oranges. Orange in general, just the gradient itself is quite nice. It can be as warm or cool as you like. Isn't the sunset at the end of the day a bit more melancholic? True, but after the end of the day is when all the exciting things happen, so I like cat fur grey. Oh, Mal. You're such a cheeky boy. Sorry, I just had to take a drink. So, we're gonna start reading if that's okay. And what we're going to read... Oh, the smell of a new book is so nice. The smell of a new book is always so nice. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to read a story about an Irish hero called Cuchulainn. Now, hello Cabal. Good morning. If you have... I know that quite a lot of you here... And hello Arthur, sorry. I know that quite a lot of you here. And hello Gail. Ah. And hello Snack. Hello dear Snack. I think a lot of you guys... And thank you for the host. But, I think a lot of people who here are dirty weeaboos and therefore have an experience with the Fate series. I think Cuchulainn is meant to be a character in that, but I don't know because I'm not a weeaboo and I've never seen or read any Fate stuff. However, I will read you guys the story. I mean, if you played Final Fantasy, Cuchulainn is a monster in that, which is kind of strange for me. But I shall start reading. So this is... You never watched one of my Japanese animes. No, I haven't watched that one. He's in several other JRPGs too. I mean, it's just a cool name for a monster, I guess, right? Hello, kitty girl, and my name is Johan Carlos Sevilla, and I'm an otaku. Hello. Right, I will begin. I would, you can tell people your original character, but, right now I am about to read, and I would therefore appreciate, if we could all just chill out, okay? It's time for reading. It's time for chilled out reading. Wow, no you cannot. I don't want to hear anything about your original characters. I don't know what kind of original characters the stories are going to be in. To be honest, I'm a little bit worried. Very sorry, Johan. Long ago, there lived a king in Ulster called Conor MacNessa. His warriors were known as the Red Branch Knights. The king himself trained them in his own special school. They could run faster, jump higher, and fight more fiercely than anyone else. The king had a nephew named Satanta. Ever since he was little, the boy had heard about the Red Branch Knights. He could hardly wait to grow up so he could become one himself. I am tall and strong, he said to his mother one day. I want to go to Ulster to join the Red Branch Knights. No, my son, his mother answered. Oh, Thank you very much for the raid. And good morning slash good evening. We are currently reading an Irish fairy tale about how Cuchulainn got his name. And I'm only like 2 sentences in, so I might as well restart it if that's okay. I'm I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting anything this early in the morning. I'm just gonna take a quick drink. I still haven't had my coffee yet. Long ago, there lived a king in Ulster called Conor MacNessa. His warriors were known as the Red Branch Knights. The king himself trained them in his own special school. They could run faster, jump higher, and fight more fiercely than anyone else. The king had a nephew named Setanta. Ever since he was little, the boy had heard about the Red Branch Knights. He could hardly wait to grow up so that he could become one himself. "I am tall and strong," he said to his mother one day. "I want to go to Ulster to join the Red Branch Knights." "No, no, my son," his mother answered. "You are still only a little boy. I cannot let you. I would miss you too much." For a while, Setanta was happy. He tracked wild animals in the woods and knew the song of every bird. Sometimes he made hurley sticks from the springy ash wood. He and his friends played together, whacking a ball with their sticks. Setanta's team always won. He hit the ball harder than anyone else and could run like the wind. A year passed, and Setanta grew restless again. "I am 10 years old now," he said to his father one day. "I can run fast and I am very strong. I want to go to Ulster to join the Red Branch Knights." "No, no, my son," his father answered. "You are still too young. You must wait until you are older." For a while, Setanta was content. He milked the cows and kept the sheep from straying, gathered firewood and carried water for the house. When winter came, there were games of chess that went on for hours. At night, he listened to the old people telling their ancient tales. One autumn evening, a stranger came to the gate. "I have come from the north," he said, "from the court of Conor MacNessa. I seek shelter for the night." Setanta was delighted. Quickly he took the stranger to his father. "Of course, you are 1,000 times welcome. Come and sit by the fire. We will have music and storytelling this night." Soon the house was packed with neighbours and relations. Everyone wanted to hear the traveller's news. All he talked of was King Conor MacNessa and his brave warriors. His songs praised them, and he recited the history of the king's family for many generations. Setanta listened, his heart thumping with his excitement. In his ears he could hear the roar of battle and the warriors' fearless cries. "I must go and join the Red Branch Knights," he burst out at last. "My uncle needs me. I am old enough now. I am strong enough now." But the stranger laughed. "You are only a child," he said. "You would be smashed to pieces in battle and thrown aside." At last, everyone settled down for the night. Setanta could not sleep. He lay watching the sparks as they flew up into the darkness and were lost among the stars. "It's no good," he thought at last. "I just can't wait another night." Silently he rolled onto his feet, stopping only to pick up his hurley and ball. Outside was the first hushed light of a misty dawn. All day he travelled, taking directions from the sun. He did not go by the usual paths, but kept to remote hills and sheep tracks. Now no one could follow him. It was evening when he reached King Conor MacNessa's fort. Just in front of it swept a great wide lawn. There was a hurling match going on, and, almost at once, the ball dropped at Setanta's feet. He scooped it up with his hurley and ran. The players were all big boys. They tried to tackle him, but he was too fast. whirling past them till the ball was in the goal. There was a mighty roar. A row broke out among the boys. Some of them attacked him. Setanta defended himself as well as he could. "Stop!" shouted the king's voice. "What's happening here, and who is this child?" "I am your nephew," Setanta replied. "I have come to join the Red Branch Knights." "Well," laughed King Connor, "you are only a little man, but if you always fight as bravely, someday you'll be the leader of my army." So Setanta was allowed to stay. Setanta soon settled into his new life. He learned to fight like a stag and to move as silently as the clever red fox. But he learned too about loyalty, honor, and truth. Connor was a strict master, and only the most promising boys were allowed to remain. One evening, Setanta was hurling with his new friends. King Connor called to him. "Cullen, the blacksmith, has prepared a feast," he explained. "I am going there now. Would you like to come?" Setanta had heard a lot about Cullen. He was as strong as a giant, the greatest blacksmith in the land. He gave wonderful feasts. It would be nice to hear some music and have a little fun. "I would love to come," Setanta said, "but I am in the middle of a game. I will follow you later. It won't be dark for a long time." "Very well," said the king, and off he went in his royal chariot. The game was long and hectic. Setanta quite forgot about the time. The sun was going down when he scored the winning goal. "I must hurry," he thought, as he washed and changed. "It will soon be dark and it's a long walk. I'm not even sure of the way." He set off, following the tracks of the chariot wheels. There was no proper road, and soon it was almost dark. Trees creaked eerily in the shadows, and rocks took on strange shapes. Old tales of ghosts and spirits whispered in his head. Once or twice a wolf howled and owls skimmed overhead, but Setanta would not admit that he was afraid. He whistled a cheerful tune and tried to see how well he could balance his hurling ball. It began to rain. A shivery wind trembled in the trees as the last of the light disappeared. Setanta grew cold and wet. He wished he was at home. Meanwhile, at Cullen's house, there was music and dancing. Mead and wine flowed from every cup. Roast pig and fresh oat cakes were piled at every place. The room was smoky and hot. Cullen's beautiful sisters tended the guests. The king could not take his eyes off them. As the night went on, he grew sleepy with food and wine. He did not notice the rising wind or the rain that poured down outside. "It's a terrible night," Cullen said. "I will call in my sentries. All my guests are here. My hound will guard instead. He's a vicious killer, and no enemy will enter my gates." But King Connor was not listening. His eyes were on the beautiful girls. At last, Setanta saw lights ahead. He was cold, tired, and hungry. He could not wait to be inside. He smiled to himself as the noise and music flowed out across the night. The gates were closed, but he climbed easily over and dropped into the yard. Immediately there was a murderous snarl. Setanta stood absolutely still. Two wicked eyes glittered in the shadows. It was Cullen's dog, half hound, half wolf. Setanta gripped his hurley. Wild thoughts tumbled through his head. He knew that this dog would eat him alive. There was only one chance. As the dog hurtled towards him, eyes raging, mouth snarling, Setanta took careful aim and rammed the ball down the hound's gaping throat. With a fearful screech, the dog crashed to the ground. Choking and gasping, he tried to cough up the ball, but it was firmly stuck. With one last mighty shudder, He tossed his head and died. The door crashed open. Cullen and King Connor had heard the dog's wild cries. "My hound!" shouted Cullen. "Satanta!" yelled the king, suddenly remembering. He dashed out, afraid of what he might find. But there was Satanta, with the dog dead at his feet. "I'm glad you are safe," said Cullen at last, "but I am sad to lose my poor faithful hound. He served me long and well." Satanta stepped forward. "I am sorry I had to kill your dog," he said, "but if you will let me, I will be your hound. I will guard your home with my life." King Connor and Cullen agreed, and soon Satanta had another name. He was called Cuchulainn, which means Cullen's hound. This was his name ever after, when he became the best and most famous warrior of the Red Branch Knights. And that was... Oh my god, no, the next story is about leprechauns. that was the story of how Cuchulainn got his name. If you guys don't know what hurling is, hurling is a game played today, where you have a stick called a hurley. It's basically like hockey. Sudden pet play. I'll just put in. So it's basically like hockey. You have a big stick called a hurley and a little ball called a slitter, and the aim of the game is to hit people with your hurley. It's a full contact sport. You smash other people with your stick, and get the ball into a goal at the other end of the field. And it gets very violent, but it's good fun. It's good. It's just like baseball. I don't think so. Is there any protection? They do make them wear protection now. Like they do make them wear protection now. It's nothing as much as stuff like American football. But yes, in the days before they made people start wearing a second, can I copy this, please? Let me copy this, okay? Copy image location. Can I do this? No, I can't. Okay. Well, back there was a lot of blood involved. It wouldn't be that weird to see people going around with blood all over their face like that. But now they have to wear helmets. Now they have to wear helmets. So at least there's that. But yes, that's enough of that. But just to say what that game is, because I know that other countries don't really have it. But yes, I shall continue. We're gonna play hurling because CET is cool. It is a fun game. It's one of the fastest games in the world. It's actually incredibly entertaining to watch. And I'm not somebody who's into sports at all, but it is very entertaining to watch. However, it's time to read about leprechauns, guys. It's time to read about leprechauns, okay? And I don't actually know this fairy tale, so it's going to be interesting for me to read as well. So the next story we have is a story called I Want to Fall Asleep to the Soft Descriptions of People Getting Battered and Bruised in Non-American Sports. Let me tell you about croquet. However, I will continue reading. I will continue reading. The next story I'm going to be reading is a story called The Magic Shoes. The Magic Shoes. Let's go. Oh, first I'm gonna take a drink though. I'm sorry. Oh. There was a king long ago called Fergus Crookedneck. He had once been the handsomest man in the world. But one day he went swimming in a nearby lake, not knowing that a ferocious water monster lived there. The monster attacked, twisting the poor king's neck so badly that it was crooked ever after, and no one could make it straight. The king's men failed to capture the monster who lived deep in the center of the dark, mysterious lake. At this time, too, there lived another king called Ubdan. His kingdom was the lost, wild valleys between the mountains and the secret caves of the ancient gods. You see, Ubdan was the king of the Leprechauns, and a proud, boastful little fellow he was. One day Ubdan held a great feast to which all the leprechauns and fairies were invited. There was roast field mouse and breast of robin, woodbine honey and elderberry wine. Ubdan sat with his wife, Babel, smiling at the noise and fun. After a while, he stood up to speak. "Is this the best feast you have ever had?" he asked. "It is," shouted the little people. "And who is the bravest, cleverest, richest king that ever lived?" "You are," they yelled. The king smirked, till a sniffly laugh rippled from the back of the crowd. King Ubdan flushed. "Who dares to laugh at me?" he roared. One of the leprechauns stepped forward. It was Isert, the royal poet. "You," gasped the king. "Are you saying that I am not the bravest, cleverest, richest king that ever lived?" "Of course you're not," Isert said calmly. "King Fergus Crookedneck is greater by far." "What?" screeched the king. "Traitor! Lock him up. He will be punished for this lie." Immediately 2 guards began to drag Isert away. "Wait, listen," shouted Isert. "What I say is the truth. King Fergus is a human. His army is 10,000 times greater than ours. Not one of us could carry even one of his gold coins." "Rubbish!" shrieked King Ubdan. "Such nonsense! It's nothing but lies." "Let me prove it," cried Isert. "At least give me one chance to prove that I'm telling the truth." Now most of the leprechauns liked Isert and were sorry to see him in trouble. Give him a chance, O king," someone yelled. "Yes, give him a chance, give Isert a chance," cried the crowd. "Very well," said King Ubdan then. "You have 3 days, but if you have lied, you will be banished forever from our world." Isert prepared for his journey at once, dressing himself in velvet and silk and taking his jeweled sword. Then off he went. The way was long and difficult. Soon the grass made gigantic stalks over his head. Bees seethed in his ear like flying monsters. Sleek, furry paws clawed at him as he passed. But eventually he reached the gates of King Fergus Crookedneck's fort. How the guards laughed when they saw the tiny little man. They gladly opened the gates, however, and carried him between goblets and plates. With a smile, oh no, I missed the word, I'm sorry, I missed the sentence. They gladly opened the gates, however, and carried him to the king. With a smile, they set him down on the table between goblets and plates. The king and his guests stared in disbelief. Then they laughed so hard that Isert staggered backwards. "Have a drink, little man," someone shouted in a thundering voice. "No, thank you," replied Isert. "I have come to speak to the king." But a rough hand reached out and dropped him into a cup of wine. Poor Isert floundered and sputtered. "Take me out," he gasped. "If you do, I will give you knowledge and wisdom." There was a roar of laughter. Now Isert was getting angry. "Did you know, O king, that the bald man sitting beside you cheats you at chess?" The man gulped, and blushes ran up his neck. "And that the man with the red beard has stolen money from your treasury? And you yourself, old king, have—" But before he could say another word, the king hurriedly lifted Isert out of the wine. Snitches get stitches. At once Isert composed a poem praising the king for his kindness and bravery. King Fergus was very pleased. A pincushion was brought for Isert to sit on, and he joined in the feast. For 2 days he remained as a royal guest, but now it was time to return with proof. "I will send my dwarf A with you," King Fergus said. "He is the smallest person in my kingdom. When your king sees him, he will know you are telling the truth." So A and Isert set off. Now Isert rode in A's pocket, giving directions as they went. Eventually a hare came running towards them, wearing a golden saddle. "It's King Ubdan's horse," Isert explained. "He will carry us home, and quickly." Everyone had gathered to see Isert's return, but when they saw the dwarf, they screamed and ran. King Ubdan, however, bravely stayed on his throne. "This is Aid," Isert announced, "the smallest man in the kingdom of King Fergus Crooked Neck. This is proof that I told the truth. And now, King Ubdan, I challenge you to go there yourself and taste the royal porridge in the king's kitchen." King Ubdan knew that he would be shamed if he refused. "I will go at once," he said, "for I am curious to see how these humans live." "And I will go with you," Queen Bebo declared. It was nearly night, so, dressing themselves in their mouse-skin robes, away they rode. All night they travelled on whispering, shadowy paths. The moon faded as they reached the fort and passed the sleeping guards. Through the great white halls they rode, till at last they found the kitchen. How enormous everything seemed! A huge porridge pot stood on the table with a gigantic spoon resting on the rim. With a mighty leap, the horse jumped onto the table, but Ubdan was unable to climb up the pot. "Try standing on the horse's back," suggested Babel. Now Ubdan could reach the spoon. He snatched at the handle, but, losing his balance, he fell head first into the porridge. "Are you all right?" asked Babel anxiously. Before Ubdan could answer, the door opened and in came the servants to prepare breakfast. "What's this?" boomed a voice. "A tiny man in the porridge. What a messy little fellow he is, and this must be his wife. Let's take them to the king. He has always regretted letting go of Isert." King Fergus was delighted when he saw them. "You will remain here," he said to the pair. "People will come from far and near to see the little people at my court. I will treat you well, but you must not try to escape." So Ubdan and Babel remained at King Fergus Crookedneck's court. They saw for themselves that Isert had told the truth. After a while they longed to go home, but there was no chance of escape. Time passed. The Leprechauns were worried about their king and queen. They held a meeting. "We must go to rescue them," Isert said, and he led a mighty army to the gates. "We want our king and queen," they shouted in their high-pitched voices. "No," said King Fergus. "My court is famous since they came. King Ubdan and Queen Babel will remain here as my guests. If you do not let them go, we will scatter all your cattle," said Isert then. "I will not let them go," King Fergus said. "We will poison all the water." "I will not let them go." "We will burn each mill and storehouse." "I will not let them go." "We will flatten all your corn." "I will not let them go." "If you do not release them, We will make all your people bald, every man, every woman, and all your little children. If you do that, said King Fergus angrily, you will never see your king and queen again. Then why is he so concerned about people losing hair? He's more concerned about that than people poisoning his water. He really needs to, work on his priorities. Jesus. Then Ubdan asked to speak to his people. You must not cause any trouble, he said. Go home peacefully. King Fergus and I will sort this out ourselves. So, grumbling and grousing, the little folk returned home. Now, said King Ubdan, you see that my people are very angry. You may have any of my treasures if you release myself and Babel. And Ubdan showed his wonderful possessions. A spear that always hit the target, a belt that prevented sickness, a cauldron that was never empty, and a pair of magic shoes that could walk on water. King Fergus thought for a moment, then he smiled. I'll take the shoes, he said. If they prove their magic, we'll both be free to go. Of course, the shoes were tiny, but they stretched to fit. Then taking the sword, King Fergus set out for the nearby lake. The day was still, and his reflection shimmered in the water. The sight of his crooked neck filled him with rage. Putting on the magic shoes, he stepped lightly over the water. There in the center, the monster lay asleep. There in the center, the monster lay asleep. Fergus dived, plunging with his sword. At once a fountain of blood shot into the air. There was a wild struggle. The monster lashed and thrashed, but the king was faster. He skipped across the waves, thrusting and cutting as the monster appeared. With one last rush, Fergus swiped off the creature's head. To his great surprise, his own neck was immediately straight, and all the people watching him clapped and cheered. And so King Ubdan and Queen Babel were released. There was feasting and dancing till the next new moon. Ubdan couldn't quite help boasting a little about his great escape, but he never ate porridge again after that. And that was an interesting story about leprechauns. I've never actually heard that before. I've never heard that before, and it's a little bit weird. I'm not going to lie. It kind of took a turn. I love storytime meaning because I can't read. Can snakes not read? That's kind of sad. Oh no, this doesn't have my favorites. This doesn't have my favorite story in it, guys. However, I will read one more. Okay? This is going to be a very short stream, but I will read one more story. Okay? And this is the story of Tiernan Oak. I was a little segregated in school from everyone because I'm a reptile. Oh, little Cess, that's so sad. I'm so sorry to hear. If I were in school with you, you would be my best friend. Don't worry, I would teach you how to read. But yes, this is the story of Tiernan Oak. Because Tiernan Oak is actually a really nice story. It's very bittersweet, but it's one of the more famous Irish fairy tales. Far away in the land of Tiernan Oak, there lived a king. Every 7 years there was a race from the fort gates to the top of a steep hill. First to reach the throne on the hilltop was made king. 3 times he had run the race, but now he was getting nervous. One day he sent for the chief druid. I am worried that someone else will win the next race, said the king. Then I would be king no longer. Don't worry, replied the chief druid. You are easily the fastest runner. The only person who will ever defeat you is the man your daughter will marry. What? Roared the king. He thought of his only daughter, Niamh, who was so beautiful that every man who saw her fell madly in love with her. It was only a matter of time before she married. The king was furious. She will never marry, he roared. You must cast a spell on her that will make her ugly and disgusting. I cannot do such a thing, answered the chief druid. I have known Niamh since she was born. And so have I, snarled the king. But not even my own daughter will cause me to lose my crown. Then, snatching the chief druid's magic stick, he strode into the garden. With one touch, his daughter's head became a pig's. Now, raged the king, no one will ever marry you, and I will rule forever. Poor Niamh. She ran to her room, screaming and sobbing. She could not believe that her father had done such a thing. What would become of her? Would she ever be an ordinary girl again? One morning, the chief druid came to visit her. Oh, Niamh, he said, if only I could undo the harm your father has done. Then help me, please, cried Niamh. Surely you can do something. There is only one way to get rid of this wicked spell, the chief druid explained. You must marry one of the sons of Fionn McCool. If you succeed, the pig's head will disappear. But who would ever marry me as I am? Cried Niamh. I'm sorry, said the druid. There's nothing else I can do. All that day, Niamh thought of what the chief druid had said. At last she made up her mind. When darkness came, she dressed herself in a long, hooded cloak. Then, taking her white horse, she set off for Ireland. Over the sea went the wonderful white horse, his hooves scarcely touching the water. Dawn mist shimmered as they reached the shore. It did not take Niamh long to find Fionn McCool and his sons. The forests rang with the shouts of their hunting, and the nights echoed with their songs. One of Fionn's sons was named Oisin. He was strong and handsome, swift on his feet, and fearless in battle. But he was also kind and gentle. Niamh watched from a distance as he rescued a trapped fawn. That is the only man I would marry, she thought, but he is so handsome. Every woman in Ireland must be in love with him. What chance have I? But Niamh was desperate. Silently she followed Oisin everywhere, keeping in the shadows and never showing her face. One evening, after a good day's hunting, the Fianna went home. Oisin was left alone. He had so much to carry that he could not manage it all. Niamh darted out from the trees. Let me help you, she said. The sinking sun rested on her pig's head, and she almost turned and ran. But Oisin just said, Thank you, I have too much to carry alone. They walked a long way. Oisin told her the names of the flowers and birds. At last they stopped to rest. The day was hot, and, as Niamh took off her cloak, Oisin looked at her. You are very beautiful, he said, except for the pig's head. How did it happen? Slowly, sadly, Niamh told him her story. Tears ran down her ugly face as she remembered her father's treachery. The only way I can become completely human is by marrying one of the sons of Fionn McCool, she said. Is that all it takes? Laughed Oisin. That's no problem. I am Oisin, son of Fionn, and I will marry you myself. They were married at once. Gradually the pig's head disappeared, and there was the real Niamh. Eyes green as the sea, clouds of golden hair hanging to her waist. A band of diamonds glittered on her forehead, and her dress shimmered with pearls. Oisin could not speak. Out of the shadows came Neve's faithful horse. Silver tassels hung from the polished saddle, beads of rubies dangled from the reins, but Oisin scarcely noticed. He could not take his eyes off this beautiful girl. "I will never leave you," he said. "I will follow you to the ends of the earth." "Then get up on my white horse," replied Niamh, "and come with me to Tiernan Oak. There you will never grow old. You will be young and handsome forever and have anything you could ask for. There the days sparkle with sunlight and the nights are never cold." In a daze of love, Oisin mounted the horse. At once they set off, over mountains, rivers, and rocks. Soon they came to the ocean. The white horse never stopped, his feet scarcely touching the waves as they crossed. Oisin barely noticed the wonderful places they passed, the water cities, the palaces of light. His face was buried in Niamh's gorgeous hair as it billowed around her. He no longer remembered who he was or what he had left behind. When they reached Tiernan Oak, the king was overjoyed. Many and many a time he had wept for the evil he had brought upon his daughter. Now, when he saw her, he begged for her forgiveness. "All my kingdom is yours," he said. "You and your husband will rule forever." So Oisin and Niamh began their life together in Tiernan Oak. They fished in crystal waters, went swimming in warm lakes. They raced their horses on the sparkling beach, feasted on honey and fruit. Oisin made songs for Niamh as they wandered under the stars. They were the happiest of lovers, and Oisin had all he could wish for. But though Oisin had forgotten his past life, it sometimes came back in his dreams. Then he was with Fionn, his father, and all of his brothers and friends. They laughed and joked, or hunted with reckless speed. Oisin would wake up then and cry out in grief, for all the loved faces had vanished and were lost in his dreams. Early one morning, Oisin said to Niamh, "It's no good. Every day I remember more and more. I must go back to Ireland to see my father and friends." "There's nothing to go back for," Niamh said. "You have been in Tiernan Oak for 3 centuries. Your fathers and friends are all dead and gone." "Nonsense," laughed Oisin. "I've only been here a few years. I must go, Niamh, just for a day. Then I will return and never leave you again." "Very well," Niamh said. "Since I love you, I will let you go. Take my white horse, but be very careful. You must not get off the horse. If you do, you will never see me or Tiernan Oak again." "Hello, Sardrunner." I'm just finishing up a short story. Then she kissed him tenderly, but her eyes were full of shadows. The white horse took Oisin across the sea as before, but though it pranced as lightly as ever, Oisin felt no joy. Clouds smothered the horizon, thunder echoed and died. At last the horse scrambled ashore. It was raining, but Oisin didn't care. He thought of his father and friends, how surprised they would be to see him. Suddenly he paused. Where were the woods he had hunted in? And the river? Where were the stepping stones? A bridge stretched over it, people were coming and going. How puny they looked, and how they stared at him. It was very strange. "Where can I find Fionn McCool?" he asked a girl, but the girl shook her head. "Never heard of him," she said. Puzzled and upset, Oisin rode further. "Where are Fionn McCool and his warriors, the Fianna?" he asked a group of men. They looked at each other and shrugged. Then one old man spoke. "Fionn and the Fianna? My grandfather used to talk about them, but they're all dead and gone this 300 years. 300 years? Oisin remembered what Niamh had said. Could it be true? He would go to the hill of Allen where Fionn had his fort. Surely he'd see them there. But the fort was in ruins. Weeds and nettles grew up between the stones. Oisin was heartbroken. He could not believe that his father and friends were dead. I'll go to Tara, he thought, to the High King himself. Surely there someone will tell the truth. He turned the patient horse around and headed north. Beside the road, some men were trying to lift a stone. They're so weak, thought Oshin. Not even 6 together can lift it, but I could do it with one hand. He leaned from the saddle and tossed the stone easily into the cart. The men gasped, but instantly there was a snap. The stirrup broke and Oshin tumbled off the horse. As he hit the ground, Niamh's warning was screaming in his ears, but it was too late. The handsome warrior disappeared, and Oshin became a withered old man. The white horse tossed his head and galloped away. Someone rushed in from a nearby hut. It was the holy man Patrick. Ah, here we go. St. Patrick over here. Lifting Oshin in his arms, he carried him inside. For days he nursed him, while Oshin told him of Fionn and the Fianna and the days of long ago. And then Oshin died. It was the end of the Fianna, the last great band of heroes and poets, and maybe too it was the end of Tiernan Oak, for Niamh of the golden hair was never seen again. Okay, that's actually a lot sadder than I remember it being. Oh. Oh. That's kind of sad, right? I don't... Should I read something else? Should I read something else? Should I read one more story? Because that one was kind of sad. That one was kind of sad, guys. I'll read one more. Just one more. Just one more, okay? I'll read one more because that one was really sad, and actually no, all of these are sad. I think every single one of these are sad. Right. Okay, I'll read one more. Something more upbeat. I'll read one called The Children of Lair. If you've heard of the Children of Lair before, Children of Lair is also a really, really, it's also a really, really famous one. So we'll read it, we'll read that. We'll read The Children of Lair. There was once a race of people in Ireland called the Tuatha De Danann. Or Tuatha De Danann. Tuatha De Danann. Sorry. Okay. There was once a race of people in Ireland called the Tuatha De Danann. They knew about magic and casting spells. One of them, Lair, was a king. He lived happily with his wife and 4 children. One dreadful day his wife became ill and died. Lair and the children were heartbroken. "Don't worry, father," his daughter Fionnuala said sometime later. "I will look. Hi Shiv, my favorite anime is probably Shinsekai Yori, but right now I'm reading a short story, so I'm just gonna go and finish it. I'm gonna go and just go through the whole thing first, if that's okay. Also, just a little drink, I'm sorry. Don't worry, father, his daughter Fionnuala said some time later. I will look after my little brothers. You are too young, said Lair gently. Children need a mother. Someday I will marry again. One day in summer, Lair had a visitor. It was Aoife, his wife's sister. She hugged the children and smiled at Lair. Her eyes were dark as elderberries, her skin creamy as milk. It's such a sunny day, she said. Let's eat outside. We must not be sad anymore. The children were delighted and Lair fell in love with her at once. Aoife would make a perfect wife and mother. Aoife, too, was pleased. My plan is working, she thought. Soon I will be queen. Lair is rich and will give me anything I ask for, but those children are a nuisance. When we are married, I will get rid of them. A sudden wind howled around the fort, and clouds buried the sun. Soon there was a royal wedding. It lasted for days, then Lair and his bride travelled the kingdom. "How beautiful his wife is," people said. But one old man shook his head. "Haven't you noticed," he asked. "Wherever she walks, the wind howls and clouds bury the sun. This woman will bring trouble." But they only laughed at him. "Don't be silly, it's just the weather," they said. At last, Lair and his new wife returned home. Aoife went inside to try on her new jewels and robes. Lair walked contentedly outside his fort. His 4 children were playing on the lawn. "How good they are," he thought to himself, "and how quickly they are growing. I must spend more time with them." So every day after that he played with the children, and spent a little less time with his wife. Aoife noticed. She began to get restless. She did not enjoy swimming or fishing with the children. She felt bored and left out. Lair was rich. He could go anywhere, get anything he wanted. Why did she have to stay at home while he rambled off on stupid adventures with those children? Lair loved them, and that was why. Maybe more than he loved Aoife. As time went on, Aoife grew more and more jealous. Only for the children, She thought, "I would have Lair all to myself. I must get rid of them." One day, she spoke sweetly to her husband. "My dear," she said, "the children are growing up now and don't need us. It will be good for them to just go away from home. We can have such wonderful times together, just the 2 of us." "No, Aoife," Lair replied. "Those children are part of me. I would die without them." Time after time she tried to persuade him, but it was of no use. Aoife became desperate. A terrible idea took hold in her head. It choked her heart and smothered her brain, until one day she thought of a dreadful plan. It was summer. All was still in the drowsy heat. Lair dozed in a shady corner as Aoife called to him. "I am taking the children to swim in the lake. It is so warm." Lair was pleased. He'd begun to think lately that Aoife was not completely happy. She hadn't played with the children for such a long time. Lazily waving goodbye, he settled down for a snooze. The children enjoyed the chariot ride. Soon they were tumbling down the hill and into the lake. Laughing and splashing, they chased each other in the cool, fresh water. Each shimmered in the bushes across the lake. Everything was still. It was too hot even for the birds. Suddenly Aoife, lifting up her arms, began to chant strange words. The sun darkened, a chill wind whipped over the waves. Fionnuala watched uneasily. She turned to her brothers, but they were staring at her in horror. "Fionnuala, your hair. What's happening to your hair?" Fionnuala looked down. Her long dark hair no longer swirled around her in the water. Even as she looked, white feathers grew over her shoulders, covering her skin, and in place of her arms were 2 wings. Too frightened to scream, Fionnuala looked back at her brothers. She was just in time to see their rosy cheeks disappear as they too were covered in smooth white feathers. Fionnuala and her brothers had been changed into swans. There was a mighty clap of thunder. Spears of rain lashed around her, but Aoife didn't care. Her spell had succeeded. Now she had nothing to fear. Then one of the swans began to speak, for Aoife's magic had failed to destroy their voices. "What have you done to us?" Fionnuala cried. "Why have you done this wicked deed?" Aoife laughed. "Lair is mine now, all mine," she screeched, "and you will remain as swans for 900 years. You will spend the first 300 on this lake, 300 in the Sea of Moyle, and the last 300 on Inishglora in the west. You will never be human again until you hear the sound of a holy man's bell. Now get away from here. I will never have to look at you again." And though the swans called to her and begged her to have pity on them, She would not listen. She climbed up the hill by Loch Derravara and hurried away. The sun shone again, the water lapped gently on the shore, but Fionnuala and her brothers could only huddle together. They tried to comfort each other. "Our father will save us," Fionnuala said. "You know how much he loves us. He has all the powers of the Tuatha Dé Danann. Tuatha Dé Danann. I keep messing that up, I'm sorry. Don't cry, little brothers. We will soon be home again." When she reached the fort, Aoife tipped over to the sleeping Lair and gently kissed him. "Wake up, Lair dear," she said. "I have sad news. Your 4 children drowned in the lake. But don't worry, I will take care of you. Now we are alone at last." "Drowned? How? What happened? Oh, my children, my children!" And flinging Aoife aside, Lair ran like a madman towards the lake, yelling their names, gasping and sobbing. But when he reached it, there was nothing to be seen except the softly lapping water and 4 swans. Lair threw himself to the ground, rocking back and forth in sorrow and despair. Then a voice spoke to him. "Father, don't grieve. We are not dead. Aoife has changed us into swans. It is Fionnuala who speaks." Lifting his head, Lair almost forgot to breathe as the biggest swan told him of his wife's evil deed. "Oh, my children," he cried. "My poor, beautiful children. Don't despair. I will make Aoife take back this wicked spell. Stay here. I will soon be back." And he rushed off to the fort. Aoife sat calmly brushing her hair. "What have you done?" cried Lair, shaking her by the shoulders. "Are you crazy? You know how much I love these children. How could you do such a thing? Come at once and take back that wicked spell." "No, Lair," Aoife replied. "You are all mine now. Your children have gone. Who cares about a few swans?" Lair begged and pleaded and threatened and screamed, but Aoife went on brushing her beautiful hair. Then Lair called on the powers of his god ancestors, and in a terrifying rage he changed Aoife into a demon. With a terrible screech, she vanished into the air, leaving only a trickle of ashes and the stench of burning hair. Lair rushed back to the shore and told the children all that had happened. Although he tried and tried, he could not free them from Aoife's awful spell. He cried as he touched them, stroking their feathers. Now there was no power on earth that could save them. All that long day, Lair stayed on the shore, and when night came he would not go home. "You will get cold," his servant said, "and it looks like rain. Tomorrow you can come again." He would not leave, so they built a little fire to keep him warm. Friends came to keep him company, for the news had spread. When morning came, more and more people arrived to comfort Lair, and some just to stare. So yes, Rocket Man, apparently everyone's a wizard. Everyone's a wizard. Eventually Lair had a hut built upon the shore. He slept here at night and spent every day with the swans. He mourned for his children, at least he could speak with them. Years passed. Lair grew old. One wet winter day he caught cold. His poor, tired heart could not take any more, and he died. The swans were heartbroken. In time, the hut rotted away, and people stopped coming to the lake. Winters came and went. All the time, Fionnuala cared for her brothers and tried to keep them cheerful and brave. At last, 300 years were over. The people who had known Lair and his children were long dead. One morning, the swans left the lake and flew north to the Sea of Moyle. Only one little girl, looking upwards, wondered if they were the children of Lair. The Sea of Moyle was harsh and wild. North winds slashed with icy splinters. Snow whirled so fast that the swans could scarcely see. Time after time, they were dashed apart, their feathers stiff with ice. Winter gales hurtled them towards sharpened rocks. But, whenever she could, Fionnuala kept her brothers under her wings, singing to them the songs they knew when they were children. She reminded them of happy times that were past and the wonderful days they had spent with their father. And somehow they survived those 300 bitter years. When their time was up, the swans gladly flew southwest. They landed on the island of Inishglora. The wild Atlantic was rough and cold, but nothing could be worse than what they had already endured. Here, summer brought gentle winds and sunshine to warm their bones. By now, the swans were tired and old. They had almost forgotten how to speak. Still, Fionnuala encouraged them and reminded them of Aoife's words, that one day they would be set free by the sound of a holy man's bell. And so the time went on. One evening, as the sun set, Fionnuala lifted her head, listening. Yes, there it was again, the clear, sweet ringing of a bell. Surely this is the sound we have been waiting for, she cried. Let's go ashore at once. They stumbled onto the strand. Clumsily they climbed up a steep grassy path to a group of stone huts. A man came out. He was surprised to see swans at his door, but when Fionnuala spoke he staggered back. Don't go, she begged. My brothers and I need you. Please listen. She told him their story and all that Aoife had said. You are safe now, said the man when he heard. That was the sound of Holy Patrick's bell. I will take care of you for the rest of your days. For some reason, St. Patrick is in a lot of these stories, and I think it's because when Christianity came to Ireland, they really did push the whole no paganism allowed in your stories thing. So you don't actually know if these are the original versions of these stories, or if it was something else that had freed them at the end. The good man kept his word. He fed the swans and made them a cosy nest. Night after night he listened as they told him of times long gone and all that had happened since. Then, one day, as he reached out to touch them, their feathers fell away. Fionnuala and her brothers were human again. They were 900 years old. The good man had scarcely blessed them when they died. Tenderly, they buried him. He buried them in one grave. That night, 5 stars swooped across the glittering sky. He knew then that Lair and his children were together again, in some beautiful, far-off place. Now, and that was Lair is a post-Christianity. Oh, I'm sorry for the yawn. Stretchy. I did not realise that Lair was a post-Christianity story. I guess all the ones about Fionn McCool and the Fianna and the Tuatha Dé Danann, or not the Tuatha Dé Danann, but whatever. I think Fionn McCool is probably pre-Christianity, so, and Cuchulainn. Yes, that is all I'm going to read right now. Because I have to go to class in half an hour. I hope you guys had a good day, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, little cozy reading. Yes, thank you very much for the stream. I shouldn't be saying that to you. Thank you very much for watching my stream. Yes, time to make more speakers. Thank you very much, guys. And let's see if there's anyone on. Let's see if there's anyone on to read, okay? If there isn't, I'm just gonna send you some chickens though, okay? Ah! Oh no. There we go. My dog was lying on my tablet and was pushing down the control key on it. There we go. Yes, I do believe it may be chicken time. Yeah, it's chicken time. Let's go. I hope you guys are ready for some chickens, okay? So, let's go. If you guys don't know about our chicken life, it's very cute, very cozy. There are just people there that want to. It's just about chickens. Just people with chickens. Please enjoy. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope I managed to I don't know, calm down these tumultuous times. Good night, and thank you again.